Hello everyone, my name is Alexandra Arriaga, and today I'm going to talk to you about the 3 Mile Island accident in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The purpose and objective of this presentation is to describe the general characteristics of Harrisburg, understand the 3 Mile Island accident, establish a relationship between dose radiation at different distances and cancer, and present available research about observed negative health effects post-accident. In terms of content, we'll go over an overview of Harrisburg and the accident at the 3 Mile Island, average dose radiation at different distances, changing deviance according to cancer type, mortality from cancer, and proximity to TMI, legal fees and costs associated with the accident, a summary, and finally some references. On the banks of the Susquehanna River, you'll find Harrisburg, the state capital of Pennsylvania. This city is known for its beauty and rich history. Before March 28, 1979, hardly anyone aside from those living in central Pennsylvania knew where the 3 Mile Island was located. However, after that date, anyone in the world with access to a TV, radio, or a newspaper could take a map of Pennsylvania and point to the sandbar in the middle of the Susquehanna River. You can see it right there. It's that little long thing. On that day, the reactor's fuel core at the 3 Mile Island number 2 became uncovered because the reactor coolant water level dropped below the top fuel core, and more than 1/3 of the fuel melted. Inadequate instrumentation and training programs at the time hampered the operator's ability to respond to the accident. The accident was accompanied by communication problems that led to conflicting information available to the public, which in turn contributed to overall fear. The country actually first heard from the accident from the most trusted newsman of the day, Walter Cronkite, who led off the CBS Evening News with, "A government official said that a breakdown in an atomic power plant in Pennsylvania today is probably the worst nuclear reactor accident to date. There was no apparent serious contamination of workers, but a nuclear safety group said that radiation inside the plant is at 8 times deadly level, so strong that after passing through a 3-foot thick concrete wall, it can be measured a mile away." According to the American Nuclear Society, a very small amount of radiation was released from the plant. Shortly after the accident at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, some area residents believed an increase in cancer had occurred, although a detectable excess had not been predicted. In light of the low estimates of radiation emitted, the President's Commission concluded that the sole health consequence for the population living nearby was mental distress. Because of growing interest in the effects of stress on cancer promotion and progression, Wing et al. Attempted an ecologic test of the relationship between cancer rates and accident stress. As you can see, this graph represents the findings of Wing et al., who found an increase in cancer following the accident that related to proximity of residents to the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Residential proximity to the plant was related to cancer rates prior to the accident as well as after, suggesting the presence of risk factors that were not sufficiently controlled by adjustments for urbanization or social class. Nonetheless, the post-accident pattern, as you can see, is higher than the pre-accident pattern. In this following table, we can actually see a quick reference to determine the average radiation exposure at various distances from the 3 Mile Island. The figures we actually received from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and they represent the average cumulative levels of radiation for the radial areas depicted on the table and the map that I'm about to show you. As you can see here, the closer to the plant, the higher the radiation. And this is the same thing. In the middle, you can see the 3 Mile Island, and as we move out, you can see how the radiation is less. In this graph, we can actually see a compound of the two previous graphs, since it is an analysis examining cancer rates and residential proximity to the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Wing et al. Observed a modest post-accident increase in cancer near the island that is unlikely to be explained by radiation emissions. Such a pattern might reflect the impact of accident stress on cancer progression. The study lacked direct individual measure of stress. However, the most plausible alternative explanation is that improved surveillance of cancer near the plant led to observed increase. Now let's actually focus on the deviance by cancer type. Previous studies concluded that there was no evidence that the 1979 nuclear accident affected cancer incidence in the surrounding area. However, The analysis avoids medical detection bias but suffers from inaccurate dose classification. Therefore, results may underestimate the magnitude of the association between radiation and cancer incidence. As you can see, in Model 1 pre-accident and Model 2 post-accident, the cancer deviance is higher after the radiation exposure. Now let's go ahead and draw our attention to the cost of the 3 Mile Island accident. About $34 million were spent in class action settlements, $29 million in legal expenses, $5 million in health studies, $1 million in evacuation costs, and another million in additional settlements. So it was very, very expensive. On July 23, 1980, the first human entry to the TMI-2 containment building occurred since the accident. And today, the TMI-2 reactor is permanently shut down and 99% of its fuel has been removed. In terms of pop culture, the 3 Mile Island has remained very, very important. In 1997, it was mentioned in the movie Men in Black towards the end when the aliens were escaping Earth. In the movie, it was supposed to be an alien ship, and the accident was a cover-up for them landing. Also, in 2009, the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine, the island is actually the location of a secret lab where experiments are being conducted on mutants, and the final battle involving Wolverine takes place on one of the cooling towers, which is eventually destroyed in the fight. As a summary, even though the American Nuclear Society claims that the radiation releases from the 3 Mile accident were not health hazards, studies like the one by Wing et al. Suggest that stress caused might have affected cancer rates in the area. Even to this day, the association between radiation and increased cancer rates is unclear. Nuclear accidents are very expensive. The 3 Mile Island cost around $71 million. And today, the TMI-2 reactor is permanently shut down, as I mentioned, and almost all of its fuel has been removed. Finally, these are the references. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.